painting of His Excellency
a better venue for this conference than Accra, Ghana, because of the experience we have just recently been through. You must have heard that Ghana defaulted on her debt, and the credit rating agencies reduced our credit rating to junk status. We were shut out of the international capital markets completely, and we still are shut out. We can't go onto the international capital markets yet. And so Ghana's experience must serve as a lesson to the rest of Africa, both in terms of what led us into the crisis that we found ourselves. High rate of debt accumulation was part of the reason, fiscal indiscipline and all that. We must also look at the turnaround story, that in 10 months, we have restored fiscal discipline. We have tightened our public financial management legislation, and we also have put a ceiling on how much debt can be accumulated. I think by 2030, the Minister of Finance cannot exceed 45% of GDP. We have amended the Public Procurement Act. We have also made it compulsory for every sector and every state-owned enterprise to request for a commencement before they commit government to any expenditure. We had one ministry whose budget was 1.9 billion cedis. They ended up, without permission from the Ministry of Finance, spending 9 billion cedis instead of 1.9 billion cedis. And so the debts just kept accumulating. Ministers could commit government, without recourse to the Ministry of Finance. All that has changed. And so it's brought more discipline into the system. And I'm sure that the Ghanaian participants will be very willing to discuss their experiences. Aside from that, we also are amending the Public Procurement Act in order to reduce the amount of sole sourcing that is done. Procurement is one of the biggest sources of leakages in public financial management. Inflated prices, the private sector goes and procures something, and government goes and procures the same thing at 10 times the price. And so tightening public procurement is essential for public financial management. Aside from that, we're introducing a value for money audit. And so Parliament is going to pass a VFM bill so that any procurement that is above a certain amount must go for value for money audit before expenditure can take place. I talked already about legislating debt ceilings so that a finance minister cannot come and accumulate so much debt on any country. We also must talk about our internal audit systems. In Ghana, we have two audit agencies. We have the Internal Audit Agency, and then we have the Auditor General's Department. The Auditor General waits at the end of every year. He audits all state enterprises, and he comes out with either misappropriation of funds or wrongful procurement procedures and all that. But the question I ask myself is, in every department we have an internal auditor. How is it that the internal audit process does not work effectively so that at the end of the year, the Auditor General's Department comes in with a whole list of malfeasance that has taken place in public organizations? And so this is something that we must look at. How do we strengthen internal audits so that we don't, at the end of every year, have that long litany of misappropriation? And then also, we have the issue of decentralization of Accountant General's departments. We have struggled with this for some years, and I think that the time has come when we take bold action about decentralizing the Accountant General's departments. The Accountant General in Ghana manages the payroll of a nurse in my hometown in Bolin. If she reports to work, she doesn't report to work. If she deserts her position, her salary continues to go into her account, because by the time somebody writes a letter to the region sends it to the ministry sends it to the accountant general, some 3, 4, 5, 6 months have passed. And then every year, the auditor general will flag it and say somebody continued to receive a salary even after they had deserted their post. There's a case of the person who died. I'm sure you heard it in the last auditor general's report. And the officials of the entity attended his funeral. And yet, after the man died, they attended his funeral. For 36 months, his salary was credited to his account. I mean, that is extreme anyway, but it's an example of what can happen, you know, if we don't decentralize and strengthen the process. And so teachers work in the districts, nurses work in the districts, and they form the bulk of our payroll. I don't see why we can't have district treasuries where their payments are made from, so that if they are not at post, it's easier to be able to determine that. I know that you have this system of validation, and so every month they have to sign to make sure that people are at post. But who really goes around and goes to every single school in my district to count which teacher is there and which teacher is not there? They just validate automatically. And that's how come sometimes we have ghosts, you know, on the payroll. However you exercise them, they resurrect. And so that's something that we need to look at. We also must look at tax reform. How do we reform our taxes so that it's easier, you know, to understand the tax system and makes it more, less cumbersome for people to pay? And I think that the Ministry of Finance has started something in that regard. They are simplifying the VAT. They've reduced the VAT from 21.9%, if the effective VAT rate. Of course, that includes the COVID levy of 1%, and then the cascading effect of the GET Fund, NHIL, and all the other VAT taxes, because people could not deduct their input credit when they were charged VAT. So all that is changing. Is a bold reform, and I'm hoping that it is not going to lead to less revenue, you know, for national development. But I think that a 20% VAT rate for now, and if everybody pays, we can continue to bring the value-added taxes down. And so that is a bold step, and we'll need to see how it is implemented. The final point I want to talk about is national resource sovereignty. And I'll give the example of gold in Ghana. We had a free-for-all where we had people called gold traders, and they could go into the bushes and buy gold from our small-scale miners. There are several instances, and I'll give you one example. When I was president, my vice president went to India, and he was talking about the increasing trade between Ghana and India. And he mentioned Ghana's export items to India, one of which was gold. And he mentioned a certain value of that gold. And then, lo and behold, the Indian Minister of Commerce also came to give his speech and also talked about the increasing trade between Ghana and India. But the fly in the ointment was that there was a disparity in how much gold was reported to have been exported from Ghana and how much gold was received in India. And so definitely something was not quite right. It just meant that people were under-declaring the weight and quality of the gold they were taking out. We also found a disparity where a mining company's figures of exported gold was different from the gold received by that, exported by that same mining company to Canada. And so this government took the bold decision to establish the gold board and make it illegal to take any gold out of Ghana with stringent penalties. And you won't believe it, the amount of foreign exchange that we get from the gold trade has suddenly jumped so high. It just shows, you know, what greater control of your natural resources can do. And Africa should not be ashamed of it. I mean, the developed countries say they're tired of giving us ODA. Humanitarian assistance has reduced by 40% across the world. And God blessed us with those natural resources. And we must use those natural resources to improve the lives of our people. And so any country that has natural resources in terms of minerals and all that, we must increase our sovereignty in terms of how those natural resources are either exported or insist on value addition for them. And so these are all issues that affect public financial management, and I think that there will be issues that you'll be looking at. But I wish you a very good morning, and it's a privilege for me to join you as the special guest. As was said, I was supposed to be in Angola for the African Union EU Summit. But of course, we have our Vice President, who is a capable woman who is representing Ghana. So Ghana does not have a problem with representation. But I want to commend your profession. When the Accountant Generals were being introduced, I noticed that so many of the Accountant Generals, especially from Southern Africa and Eastern Africa, are women. And so this is a very gender-friendly profession. It's a privilege for me to join you as a special guest of honor for this third annual Conference of Accountant Generals. And I wish to warmly welcome all delegates who have traveled from across our continent to Accra. Ghana is honored to host this strategic gathering dedicated to strengthening Africa's financial governance framework. And this year's theme, Africa of Tomorrow, Positioning Public Finance Management for Economic Prosperity, is both timely and compelling, and it encourages us to address the evolving dynamics of global economic governance and to develop modern, adaptable, transparent, and resilient financial systems that will support the continent's transformation. Africa stands at a defining moment in its history. The continent is rich in talent, resources, and potential, and yet is constrained by debt vulnerabilities, fiscal pressures, leakages in public expenditure, and gaps in financial reporting. At the same time, rapid technological progress such as digital payments, AI-enabled auditing tools, automation, blockchain, and data analytics are redefining the principles of public sector accountability. It is therefore appropriate that this conference takes place at a time when Africa is seeking a new financial governance model that is not only effective, but also ethical, transparent, and people-focused. As I've often emphasized, probity and accountability are the foundation of sustainable development. They are not merely abstract ideals, they are practical governance tools that protect public resources, ensure that citizens' taxes are used responsibly, and foster confidence in national institutions. Public financial management is ultimately about trust. Trust that public officers will act responsibly. Trust that every cedi, every naira, every shilling or franc will be accounted for, and trust that public choices reflect public priorities. No economic model can succeed without this trust. No government can build a prosperous society in its absence. The modern Accountant General is no longer just a bookkeeper or custodian of financial entries. Modern Accountant Generals are architects of national economic stability and frontline defenders of public accountability. Today, technology offers you powerful tools, AI-driven risk detection to flag irregularities in real time, digital procurement systems that reduce human discretion and corruption, integrated financial management systems that ensure end-to-end traceability, and blockchain solutions that secure records and reduce manipulation. But you also have data dashboards that improve monitoring, forecasting, and transparency. We must therefore embrace these innovations not as optional enhancements, but as necessities for the 21st century public financial governance. To position Africa's finance system for prosperity, I believe we must pursue strategic pathways, build institutions that are independent, professionally competent, operationally transparent, and protected from political interference. That's the most important point. Ladies and gentlemen, strong institutions with clear audit trails, professional autonomy, and standardized procedures ensure continuity, consistency, and credibility. Indeed, Africa needs greater convergence in accounting, auditing, and reporting standards, because this will improve comparability, promote cross-border investments, strengthen regional blocs such as ECOWAS, SADC, and EAC, and facilitate continental integration under the African Continental Free Trade Area. A future African Public Finance Charter could set a continental benchmark for transparency and fiscal responsibility. Digital tools are therefore essential, but people remain our greatest assets. We must invest in the next generation of public finance professionals. And I wish the young man who read the poem will be on track to become an accountant general in future. We cannot shy away from the realities that hinder the progress of our continent: corruption and illicit financial flows, weak procurement systems, inefficiencies in expenditure management, lack of robust oversight over state-owned enterprises, limited integration of regional financial systems, and over-reliance on external debt. These challenges limit prosperity and also erode public confidence. So the Accountant General's Office, as I said, is the frontline institution that can ensure that corruption is detected. It can ensure that leakages are blocked and that resources are aligned with development priorities. And so as you deliberate over the next few days here in Accra, I encourage you to share innovations freely, share best practices, explore practical reforms, establish strong cross-border collaborations, commit to excellence and ethics in financial management, and return to your countries with actionable strategies and not just ideas. Your work as Accountant Generals shapes the fiscal destinies of our nations. It influences the quality of public services, infrastructure delivery, debt sustainability, and the efficient use of our national wealth. And so as I conclude, I want to seize this moment to craft a new paradigm for public finance governance. It should be one that is rooted in transparency, in digital innovation, in professionalism, in ethical leadership, and citizen trust. If we strengthen our systems today, Africa will be better equipped tomorrow. An Africa where public resources serve the people, an Africa where accountability is the standard, an Africa where prosperity is shared and sustainable. And so on this note, I wish you a productive, inspiring, and successful conference. May God bless our homeland, Ghana, and may God bless all accountant generals in the world. Thank you.
Your Excellency will remain painting of His Excellency Deputy Finance Minister, a group photograph. So if you're an Accountant General from the 22 countries mentioned, please come up stage now to join the Gamma. Photographs will resume our seats for the national anthem, after which the...
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click on the bell for more updates.